I wanted to know if the CV matched the showreel. So what we're looking for, we are still to this day a relatively even split between people who have heavy science backgrounds and people who have arts backgrounds. It's always going to be a fusion of art and technology, this business.
I think the first thing to do is, first off, plan something that's achievable. You know, there's quite often students fail because they attempt to do something. They see a film that we've made and they say, great, I'm going to do that. I'm going to build a huge city and I'm going to fly a superhero through it. And it's not realistic. You can't achieve it. You know, and filmmakers face that as well. You look at how much money you've got, how much time you've got, the resources you have, and you say, okay, well, I'm going to try and tell my story within those limits. So look at your resources. What are you realistically going to be able to achieve? Then what I'd say to them is, what you want to come up with is something that shows that your ideas are being projected through the software onto the screen. And it's not just the computer and the software that's making the decisions for you. It's not an arbitrary decision. Modern computer graphics software, animation software, compositing software is incredibly sophisticated, and there are lots and lots of sort of canned options already in there. You know, you can create fire and smoke and water and all these things, but they tend to be the idea of what these things should look like that came from some engineer who devised the software, who was doing their best, but you're regurgitating somebody else's ideas if you just go with the set options.
Look at a real version, or investigate the real world. Work out what they need to pull out from the real world, and then work out the best way, the most efficient way to recreate that in a computer. And that ability, I think, is always going to be the one that is most prevalent and most prized in our industry.
Students shouldn't get too carried away with trying to demonstrate high-level sophisticated technique, because again, in this building we've got thousands of computers in our render farm. We can devote huge amounts of time to making very, very polished, finished looking images. What you really want to show is that it's your control over what's actually going on. The sort of things which make sense to me are things where you can actually demonstrate a range of skills rather than it just being purely about one thing. I mean, obviously people might want to focus on things like animation or environments or modeling. But when you're still a student, I think it's important to experiment with a lot of different things. You're not going to get this chance again. You know, once you get into a job, commercial pressures will press in on you, and they'll say, right, you've got to do the thing which is going to earn you the most money. But right now, as a student, you've got freedom to do anything, and you should experiment. You should be bold. You should take risks with the work. I would say that creating something like a little environment, a scene that you can put together, that maybe it's a streetscape or something like that, or a landscape, or maybe it's an underwater world or something like that, which shows something that you can demonstrate, and really think about it. And then also think about what is its visual impact going to be at the end of the day, because when you put it on a showreel and send it to somebody like me here at Double Negative, you're competing with hundreds of other candidates, and possibly even thousands. And you need to grab the viewer with something that's visually appealing, and then hopefully they'll look at it and say, hey, that looks cool. How did that person do that? And then then the viewer starts looking at it, thinking about, you know, the technique that went into it.
I think that's an important thing. If somebody can document their process. This is the render of my F-16 jet. It's on a runway. The runway's photographed. I've got into an aerodrome, and I've filmed all my backgrounds. I'm going to put my F-16 there, and I'm going to make it look like it belongs there. Now that is going to be a more compelling image, particularly if it's something that you can tie in with imaginative angles, a camera move maybe, some animation too. That's going to look pretty good, so long as when people look at it they have to do just a little double take, put a reference in there, document your learning. How did you get the model? Did you scan it? Did you survey it? Etc, etc. And I think the same with an effects example. Show that working out. Show us what you've done. What's been your discoveries? Why did you choose Houdini? Pretty obvious reasons, I expect, but you know, explain your software choice.